Hello, everyone, and welcome to this webinar about our Alaska expedition cruises. Everyone's just coming in, so we'll wait a moment or two and then we'll get started. What's that?
Make sure the cameras.
Okay. Welcome, everyone. We're just waiting about 30 more seconds for the folks in the waiting room to be allowed into the meeting, and then we'll start. All right, I think we're good. So we're going to get started now. Welcome to our webinar about our Wild Alaska expedition cruises. We will start now, and if anybody else is joining, they should be able to see a recording of this later. I'm Maureen Gordon. I'm one of the owners of Maple Leaf Adventures, and I've also been a guide on our trips for 12 years, including many in the beautiful Southeast Alaska. And with me, I have one of our expedition leaders, Jeff.
Hey everyone, my name is Jeff Reynolds. I've been with Maple Leaf for about 10 years. My background is mostly in marine biology, but I've been doing trips from the BC coast to Alaska coast with Maple Leaf since 2015, and I'm here to help guide you through this trip through Alaska and this webinar.
Wonderful. Before we delve into the place, I want to take a brief moment to explain who we are and to introduce us to you. If you don't know, Maple Leaf Adventures has been operating conservation and ecotourism informed expedition cruises since 1986. My husband, Kevin, bought the company from his mentor in 2001, which is when we started working on the company. We now have 3 ships for one, for all the different preferences that people might have in the small ship and small group and boutique travel world. Little housekeeping. We welcome your questions. We love the questions section. And there is a Q&A button on your screen. So anytime you have a question that occurs to you, just type it in there. We'll answer the questions at the end by going through them, but you don't need to wait until the end and perhaps forget your question. Just type it into the Q&A as soon as it occurs to you. If you have questions about the tech, Karine, my colleague, is looking at the questions, so she can potentially help you out if you have any technical issues, because it's never perfect with technology. Here's what we're going to cover today. We're going to talk first about what makes these trips different from some of the other ways you might be able to explore Alaska, who it's for. And then Jeff's going to take us through the trips, like what's the trip like, what are the highlights. We'll talk about the different itineraries we offer, as well as getting into life aboard, what the ships are like, and then a bit about how you can book and some other background information at the end. We also have a special offer for all of those that are attending today, and we'll get to that as well towards the end of the show. I wanted to say of the presentation. All right, so Alaska is an incredible place, and we typically offer our Alaska expedition cruises on our classic tugboat Swell, which has more than 112-year history on this coast between Seattle, British Columbia, and Alaska as a tugboat. So a real authentic way to travel. And then next year in 2026, which is our 40th anniversary as a company, we're also really thrilled the Maple Leaf is going to return to Alaska for a season. And we do plan on having Maple Leaf in Alaska every 5 years or so for a triumphant return. So if those of you who've been waiting for the Maple Leaf, this is your year, 2026. Briefly, what's special about these trips? What makes them unique? I think one of the most obvious is the boats themselves. They both have over 100 years of history on the coast, and they are wooden boats built of the wood of this coast. And there's something about stepping onto these boats and you feel it's like somehow the authentic way of experiencing the coast is on boats like these. As a company, we are ocean people. We live on the Inside Passage, work on the Inside Passage at that junction between the ocean world and the forest and land world and our own cultures. And so this intersection and interplay between those different spheres really informs our trips. We've designed our trips around it. And for you as a guest, we're welcoming you into that kind of milieu, and you're in that world the whole time. And I think that makes it a little bit different for you. The Inside Passage itself is 44,000 kilometers of coastline when you go around all the islands and fjords, and about 27,000 of that is in Southeast Alaska. So it's an immense and rich place to explore, and being able to get up close and personal on these beaches in small groups is something very special that it's rare to find in Alaska. Our crew and guides are also people of this coast who have a lot of knowledge from research and marine navigation in these very advanced, tricky waters. So all of those things make the trips a little bit different than other options that you might see on trips on this coast in general and in Alaska. So we're going to start with a short little video. I think it's about 1 minute long, just that was taken on one Alaska trip to give you a sense of what it's like, because there's nothing like video to convey some of the beauty and movement of a trip. We do have a naturalist talking on this. It may be difficult to hear, but if it is, just enjoy the pictures. And before we get into the features of the trip, briefly, who are these trips for? Probably all of you. You've probably figured that out by now. But it's for people who want to travel in a human scale way, who want to get off the beaten track, who don't want to be in a crowd, and who also don't mind putting on rain gear and sitting for a while to see if that brown bear is going to come out of the bushes, and just listen to the silence of the forest around you. It's for people who enjoy the idea of exploring in a small group on a little boat, far away from shows and shopping and all of those kind of modern conveniences. And as you know, in Alaska, there is a choice for everyone. So we sometimes see the massive cruise ships up there, but really they're just passing us by while we're having our experience. And it's more casual kind of environment, and we're able to even just talk to people on the dock sometimes. So that's who the trips are for people for whom enjoying the sunset and listening to the seabirds or listening to a seal breathe in the anchorage is what you want at the end of your day. I'm going to pass it over to Jeff now, and he's going to talk about highlights on the trips and what you can expect.
Yeah, thanks, Maureen. So just another thing to touch on, especially next year, being able to sail in Alaska is very unique. So what Misty had already touched on about some of the areas, I'm going to cover as well in picture form. But this is more to let you know that we'll show you the itineraries later, but our trips will typically cover these different places that I'm going to go over in one way or another. Whether or not it's a longer trip or a shorter trip, we try to pack in as much as possible. And so we're going through the Tongass National Park, which is the US's largest park, and it's the largest contiguous temperate rainforest system in the world. So we definitely get off the boat and go explore this forest in a few places. And certain times of the year, more mushrooms or more flowers or more berries. It's definitely a really unique place to be able to get off and explore. With mountains come tons of waterfalls, so lots of picturesque scenery along the way. Frederick Sound, as Misty had mentioned in the video, really big body of water. It attracts a lot of wildlife as well, but just off into the distance in the first islet there's this unique lighthouse called the Five Fingers Lighthouse. We definitely try to get there if the weather cooperates. This is a perfect day to visit in this picture, but it's not always. Frederick Sound also attracts a huge number of humpback whales, and they've just come back in huge numbers. And here you can see them feeding on herring, and they do this super unique feeding behavior called bubble net feeding here. And we try to get a glimpse of this, and listening to them underwater with our hydrophone definitely brings in a huge different, I guess, dynamic when you're watching whales. And then we also try to get to see some stellar sea lion haulouts, which there are a few in Frederick Sound. These incredibly big, the world's biggest eared seals in the world. And they're really cool to see and watch them frolic and socialize and sometimes even feed. And then because this is a glacial world, we see a lot of remnants of big glaciers. This is a glacial till moraine, and it's been vegetated, and getting off and exploring the flowers and the different vegetations are also really a neat place to see. Then in our anchorages, we usually try to get off in the kayaks. Both Maple Leaf and Swell have some kayaks for people to use, and morning is usually the best time to get off and explore and have a little time to yourself. Now, sometimes you even get a chance to see some wildlife from the kayaks, and it's super unique because it's quiet. You're in this wilderness area, and the bears sometimes don't even mind. We also get to the Coots Nuwu wilderness area, and this is on Admiralty Island. Both ships will go to, and it's got the highest density of brown bears in the world. It's got about 1,700 bears on the island, which equates to almost 1 bear per square mile. So really unique opportunity to sit and watch and wait for bears to come out. And this is the perfect time for bears to be collecting salmon in the rivers. So watching them fish in the rivers and watching them share their food with their cubs, which have just come out of hibernation with them, and they're just learning from mom, is a very adorable thing to be able to see on these trips. And then, of course, it's Alaska and everything's big, including these big glacial fjords that we try to get up to every trip. and we get up to a tidewater glacier, at least one, sometimes two. And this is just an incredible place to be able to bring wooden boats and get a glimpse of these massive icebergs breaking into the water. The different wildlife that's up here is also really unique, but it's also very cold. Like you're walking into a freezer. So it's something to dress for, but once you're dressed for it, it's a spectacular place to be able to visit and a very powerful place to watch ice fall into the water. And then luckily we get a chance to grab this ice and perhaps even put it into a drink. This 10,000-year-old plus ice is a very cool thing to be able to grab out of the water, first of all, but also because it's been condensed for so long and the weight of the ice pushing on it has this trait of very compressed air trapped in the ice. And so when you pop it into a drink, it kind of sizzles like a salsa. Up the glacial fjords, there's some really unique wildlife, not just the seagull, but the Arctic terns are here feeding, and also harbor seals are using this area to kind of be protected from predators to pup, which is a really cool scene to see, especially seals up on the ice. The scenery is, it is big. Big mountains, big forests along our routes. It's always changing every day. And here on Baranof Island, we get a chance to even go to some hot springs. Probably the most picturesque hot springs I've seen on the coast. It's right along this river that's just cascading down from Baranof Lake. And it actually travels all the way down to our anchorage right there. That waterfall off to the left was up past the springs. And these little hamlet towns are kind of emblematic of the Alaska coast. And we get a chance to visit these places, see the fishermen bringing their fish back from the day, and getting a chance to, like Maureen's showed a picture of people just talking on the docks. And that's a really neat place to be able to learn more about the local people. And then we try to get out to some of the seabird nesting areas. And one is kind of off of Sitka, over 500,000 nesting birds. And if the weather cooperates, getting out to see these tufted puffins is always a nice highlight. At the beginning or end of the trip, depending on which trip you're doing, in Ketchikan or Sitka, we highlight the First Nations culture and some of the historic Russian culture in the areas. And the Tlingit are incredible carvers, and we get a chance to see some at work. Visiting some of the local celebrities in certain areas, seeing some of the ancestors' work as well, and visiting Sitka National Historic Park if you're starting or ending in Sitka, as well as visiting the Southeast Alaska Indian Cultural Center, which has a lot of artifacts from the past, which are really neat to see. All right, that is a lot to cover in one trip, but we do it. Let's go, Marie.
I'm briefly going to outline the different itineraries so that you have a chance of understanding which one might be for you. So Swell has a couple. And the itineraries that we offer give you either a longer or a shorter trip. And that's the main difference if you want to spend more time here in this incredible world, or if you have more limited time or more limited budget. So our super voyages are probably our most popular itineraries. They cover all of Southeast Alaska, and they spend 11 nights and 12 days exploring. So for example, in this particular sample itinerary, I don't know if you can see my mouse pointer on the screen, probably not. It doesn't want to appear, so I'll just talk you through it. In this particular one, we start in Ketchikan, where we have a wonderful lodge that we stay at there, really welcoming people away from the hubbub. And we have some cultural guides, both for that American gold rush history, as well as Tlingit history that we explore on this trip through walking tours and food and so forth. And then we board the Swell and start heading north deeper into Southeast Alaska through Tongass Narrows and into the South Atoll and Wilderness area, which is a whole lot of islands there north of Ketchikan, which is a beautiful place to kayak, explore by small boat, get to see the intertidal life, get off on these little islands, and there's even black bears down there. So it's a really wonderful way to start getting in touch with Alaskan lifestyle. We head up through South Atoll and Wilderness and up through Tongass Narrows, which goes between the two islands there where you see Petersburg is. Tongass Narrows is a great Alaskan cultural experience, in my opinion, because it's this very, very narrow channel that all sorts of small boats, fish boats, and the Alaska State Ferry, which is the largest boat that goes through there. And you have people's vacation homes on either side sometimes, and you can't quite believe that you're cruising through this on a large boat. And it's just a great way to see Alaskans at life. Through Petersburg, and we head up into the fjords where we have the Tidewater Glaciers. The first Tidewater Glacier is there just north of Petersburg at LeConte. Sometimes we'll do that one, but there's many others that we love to visit, especially at further north in Ford's Terror Wilderness area and Decatur Tracy Arm. We head over to Admiralty Island, which has the Kootznoowoo Wilderness area in it. We have some special access permits to some bear viewing areas there. So we'll spend a great time. We get to meet the rangers who spend a lot of time with the bears as well, which is really lovely to talk to the Alaska Forest Rangers. And then into Frederick Sound, exploring this incredible sort of inland sea filled with wildlife, marine mammals of all different kinds, including the humpback whales. There's orcas cruising through there, sea otters paddling through there, as well as sea lions and seals. And then over to Baranof Island, which is an incredible, sort of like another fortress-like island, filled with ecosystems and waterfalls and bears and forest, and we get to explore a lot there, as well as the hot springs. Then heading out, we go up and around Baranof and out to the west coast, and we start to see more sea otters around Salisbury Sound. We start to experience the west coast way of life, and even the west coast fishing, made famous by Deadliest Catch, that TV show, if anybody remembers that. It was really popular about 15 years ago. There are some of those boats out of Sitka. And then depart in the beautiful town of Sitka. So that's a typical trip. And that's our super voyage itinerary. For our Alaska adventure, we have made a couple of trips that are a little bit shorter for people who have less time. And they highlight kind of the Frederick Sound, Glacial Fjords, and Sitka area. And then on the Maple Leaf, who has been doing trips in Alaska since 1989, I believe, was her first trip there. Through special permit, by the way, with the Alaska Forest Service, we do these trips. Her itinerary is like a super voyage itinerary. So it doesn't go out to Sitka, but other than that, it's very similar to a super voyage itinerary. With opportunity, obviously, to do some sailing as well. Just to be clear, sailing depends on the wind and the direction of the wind and so forth. So we don't sail every day, but we would sail once or twice probably on this trip. And now I'm going to turn it over to Jeff, and he's going to talk briefly about, okay, so you know, to help you understand, now you know the features and the routes. What's a day like? What's a day in the life?
Yeah, what's a day like on board a vessel like this? So if you haven't been on a Maple Leaf adventure, this will just kind of be a walkthrough of what happens after you wake up. So what we do on board is we get all your dietaries beforehand. So that's one thing that's really special about these trips is we do food to plate. So just at the beginning of your day, if you wake up before breakfast, sometimes in the anchorages, we'll have kayaks ready for you to take out and go explore. And then come back for breakfast around 8 o'clock. And at that time, you'd get a plated hot breakfast that the chefs prepared and put in front of you. And this is tailored to your dietary requirements. So that's pretty great. Whatever you don't usually eat, it won't end up on your plate. And so the chefs usually got this intuition for what people want to have, especially portion sizes, which is great. So after breakfast, maybe the ship is going to reposition. Maybe you're just going to relax in the sun, but we'll reposition for another excursion, setting up for tender rides or shore rides to shore. And these Zodiacs are amazing to get in and out of and get us into places that the big ship obviously can't. And so getting off the boat, going exploring, that could be our morning excursion. Usually in between breakfast and lunch, we'll have a snack. Then we come back, maybe the boat is going to be repositioning to the next place, and then along the way we'll have lunch. Then at our next location, here we are in Glacial Fjord, but we may be whale watching, wildlife viewing from the boat, but an afternoon excursion is usually planned as well, in between snack and dinner. Then maybe it's a walk, maybe it's in Tender Toodle, where we're just exploring the intertidal from the Zodiac. And then coming back for dinner, usually around 6:30, 7-ish in the evening, and sometimes with an activity planned for after dinner. The days are quite long up in Alaska, so the summertime is a great time to extend the day to the max, and then having these beautiful sunsets to finish off the day and wake up and do it all over again. And I know I touched on the culinary part of things earlier. Do you want?
No, go ahead.
But they are prepared professionally. These meals are incredible. We just recently won a culinary tourism award here in BC, and it just highlights the way that Maple Leaf uses sustainable seafood and contributes to local economies throughout Canada. And it just shows in the meals that these chefs are preparing, from baked goods to beautiful meals on the plate, scallops and salmon and charcuterie boards. You definitely don't go hungry on these trips, and it's just we're really lucky to be able to have these incredible chefs preparing these meals after an incredible day of adventuring. It's really nice to come back to this sort of warm, delicious meal at the end of the day.
I'm going to talk very briefly about the guides that we have. As I said, we are a coastal company. We're headquartered in Victoria, British Columbia, and the coastal temperate rainforest, which stretches between Southeast Alaska and then further south through British Columbia, Washington, Oregon, is our home and the home of our guides and our mariners. So we have wonderful people like Jeff. We have experienced captains and mates who welcome you to come into the bridge and can help you understand the challenges of navigating and also the beauty of navigating these tight channels. We have naturalists on board who share their knowledge and research, as well as our expedition leader guides and our other crew who've done all different kinds of work along the coast and have that to share. Our chefs, again, have done a lot of trips here and have a different and unique perspective on the food, which depending on the chef, you can get more or less emphasis on foraged food as well as part of your meal. Just generally though, they're happy to celebrate the coast and celebrate an industry like ours, which creates something beautiful out of these places that we love, in a way that leaves them hopefully better than they were before we came here. And that is what I want to say about these wonderful mariners and other guides that we have on board. Finally, a little intro to the ships themselves. We'll start with Maple Leaf. She's our original ship, our flagship. She's a coastal Douglas fir and high elevation yellow cedar made schooner built in Vancouver actually in 1904. And she still has the touches and of that and her original hull shape. She was then a halibut longliner fishing in the Bering Sea for decades, finishing up around the 60s. So this is one tough ship with a lot of connection to Alaska, and also just a platform where you feel that you have the world around you 360 degrees all the time. And if you really feel in touch with the world when you're traveling on the Maple Leaf. We take 8 guests on board with a crew of 5. This is Maple Leaf's Wheelhouse Lounge, where guests are welcome. It's also where the ship is navigated from. This is her cozy dining lounge and library, where it might be small, but the meals are mighty. We also love to dine on deck in al fresco when we can. She has traditional sailing ship accommodations where she has a queen bunk below and a single bunk above with heavy curtains on 2 sides and walls on 2 sides, as well as 3 shared washrooms on board, 2 of which are for the guests. And that is the way that you can travel beautifully through Alaska in the original way. Then we also have our classic tugboat Swell, built in Vancouver in 1912. And she has 6 cozy cabins. After 92 years of working as a tugboat, she did get converted for passenger carrying. And here's her bridge, or wheelhouse, sorry, that guests are also welcome to come into. This is her dining area and library, place to just hang out with a cup of coffee sometimes. And she has these on-deck lounges as well. And a little hot tub. With Maple Leaf, we go to hot springs, and Swell, we bring a little hot spring with us. She has 3 different categories of cozy cabins. They are cozy. Category 3 being the largest, and every single one of them has ensuite washrooms with showers as well. Even the little tiny category 1 has its own ensuite washroom with shower. Very rare in a little classic tugboat. We have some more information you can get from us about those if you like. But I wanted to move on and just talk briefly about the fact that since its inception in 1986, Maple Leaf Adventures has been an ecotourism company. And as a result, it's been involved in a lot of conservation, science, and protection of the coast for its entire history. And a lot of our crew have been involved in that. So that is a really lovely way to bring a little bit more meaning and familiarity with the places and elevate the discussion to more than just this is a whale and this is how it lives. We can talk a little bit more about the bigger picture with crew because of this.
Yeah.
Briefly, the way that we get to these trips is we start and end them in Southeast Alaska. This allows us to support the local economies more and not waste time with sea days getting you there. You fly from Seattle on regularly scheduled flights into our port cities, and it's quite reasonable and affordable to do that on Alaska Airlines. And we can help you with that. Here's our schedule for 2026. Certainly Kiara and Mikhail can email this to you, and it's available on our website. So I won't go through it all, but this just gives you a little bit of a glimpse of our July and August trips when we're going to be doing those, and Maple Leaf in August next year. And we have a special offer to thank you for coming to this webinar. It's combined with our regular pay in full special offer. So our special offer for pay in full bookings, for early bookings, is that there is 5% off your final balance if you do pay in full by September 30th. And then anybody from this webinar who books also gets double the rewards in our brand new Maple Leaf Explorers Club, which we will do another webinar on in the fall in anticipation of next year. But basically, once you've done a trip, you will be enrolled and get points that you can use towards future trips. So anybody from the webinar here who books gets double that. So the new trips can come faster. And then we do think of you all as individual human beings that we have a relationship with. So we help you a lot through the booking process. And I just wanted to emphasize that here. We give you information, but Mikhail and Kiara are also here at the end of the phone or the email to help you with questions. There are a few other special offers on our website, so you can check those out on the website. And we also have these amazing, Jeff made most of them, virtual tours of the ships. So if you actually right now click the 2 pictures of the boats on your screen and just open those in your web browser and save them to look at later, you can actually walk around on the ships, kind of like a real estate 360 tour. Thank you for your interest in these incredible trips. And now we will get to the questions. And And I think I'm gonna walk up to the big screen in front of me so I can read them. Actually, no, it seems to work well. So let's see, here we have, can you accommodate solo travelers or travel for a mother and adult son? Yeah, so mother and adult son, we have a couple of cabins on Swell that have 2 bunks. So you could share a cabin each with your own bunk. Or on Maple Leaf, for solo travelers, we don't have a single supplement because everything is double occupancy. So that's another great way of doing it. Mikhail and Kiara can fill you in more on that. We had another question about solo travelers, so I think I've probably answered that. And again, Mikhail and Kiara can talk about it further. There's a question about, do you cater to families? Are there any age restrictions on board? We do typically say that for these trips, especially these longer trips like the Alaska trips, if you're going to book like an individual booking on a trip that has other people on it, typically teenagers who are interested in nature and who can self-entertain through reading are appropriate, but it's not for really young kids. However, if you do a full ship family charter, which my family's done and others have done, then we can tailor it to your whole family. And on Maple Leaf, you just need 8 people to do that. And kids actually love it. There's so much in the world for kids of all ages. So those are my 2 recommendations that way. Do you have to pay extra for each expedition, or are they all included? No, like our trips are all inclusive, and I forgot to put that slide in this show. So thank you for asking that question. These are all inclusive trips. So the price is the price for everything, unlike a cruise ship where you typically pay for your cabin and then and a certain kind of meal package, and then there's a drink package that you pay for, and every short trip you could pay for as well. Ours are all included.
Yeah, we forgot that slide.
Yeah. We want you to love the experience rather than it being transactional. Can you do vegan meals is another question that we have, and the answer is yes, we absolutely can. We send a questionnaire out at the beginning of your booking process, and you can mention that in there, and the chef then provisions and plans around that. It's more difficult if you don't say that and then you come on board and the chef hasn't planned for that, but you know, they would do their best with what they had on hand. But yeah, that would be the recommendation. Fill out your questionnaire. I'm just gonna check and see if there's any other comments. How many cruises and when do the longer cruises run? So I think we have 7 next year, all throughout the summer. I think you probably saw the slide by now, but July and August is when we are in Southeast Alaska. Our other trips in the Inside Passage and also on the Hawaii Archipelago start in April in the British Columbia, Gulf Islands, and Salish Sea, Desolation Sound, and then move north. And then summer is when things are really happening in Alaska. What's the average age of the passengers? We do this calculation every once in a while, and I believe that the median age is somewhere between 58 and 65, depending on which ship you are on. The range of passengers is typically from few in their 40s, some in 50s, 60s, 70s. We have had guests even into their 90s, but you know, they're obviously in good shape for that age. Thank you for the person who said Swell is a beauty. Do you provide charter flights or transfers to those further out ports of embarkation, or would you advise us how? Yeah, you probably saw my slide there at the end. It's actually really easy to get there on scheduled flights, and we help you with all that information. And I'm just scrolling through to see, I think that's all of the questions. There's a few more. If guests need to cancel, can the money be paid transferred to another of your trips? Yeah, so we actually, you can book and pay a deposit now, which is refundable up until 4 months before your trip, unless you do that special offer, the non-refundable special offer. And Mikhail and Kiara can go into more details about all the different permutations on that. We do also recommend cancellation insurance for people, but and somebody said, I was honored to sail on the Swell for the Alaska Super Voyage in 2019. It was incredible with Misty as our guide, a unique voyage. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff, is there a final thought you'd like to leave everybody with?
Just how wild Alaska is, how much wildlife there is to see and explore, and being able to do it on these ships. There's nothing quite like it, and especially Maureen mentioned that Maple Leaf has that 360-degree viewing capability. It just puts you in the scenery and the world a lot better. And one thing we didn't mention was just the fact that we're kind of disconnected from the internet along the way. Makes you way more in touch with the area that you're visiting, and you're not distracted. And that, I think, really adds to travel these days, where we're all kind of connected and busy on our phones. This is a way to step back from that. And it's, yeah, I still think we didn't do it justice by far. You have to get on a trip to see this place for sure.
Well said. Thank you, everyone, for your time. There is a recording of this, so it will be sent out in a link in a follow-up email, as well as other details. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, everyone.
Just took part in a seminar, lasted an hour, on a company called Maple Leaf Adventures. They run 8-passenger to 30-passenger boats from all the way from Vancouver all the way up to Alaska. Like they start in Ketchikan, they go all along these tiny little passages that those people we don't know have a boat. It's like one island they pass by is one of the largest concentrations of brown bears and whales and beautiful nature. I'd like to consider doing. It's not frozen ice tundra, so you don't have to worry.
Do you want this capsule anymore? This is useless.
You could have it there. I have to wait for them to call me back on the popping. I reset everything, so who knows if it'll even happen.
These what?
I reset it, so I don't know.
Let's take care of this big spider. Hurry up! Hurry up! Hurry up!
Where is it?
Okay. What did you say?